How we doing out there? Doc Severson with you here on Trade School. Today is Friday, the 9th of November. I had to think about that one for a minute. How's everybody doing out there? Are you guys getting ready for the weekend? Anything happening with you guys? Any big plans? Let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to be getting into our topic du jour here today, which is neurolinguistic planning or neurolinguistic programming, part 2, which is getting that trader's mindset. And what does it take to get your mind to focus towards a trading positive mindset instead of a trading negative mindset? All of us come out of the factory incorrectly programmed to trade. We do. And there's several reasons for that. Part of that is that old dinosaur brain that we talked about yesterday, which is that fight or flight response when there is trouble. And with our social programming, we equate potential risk with fear, don't we? Because it might hurt if you lose. But without risk, there is no reward. So we're in this sort of paradox to try to figure out how you can do something like this and do it effectively and still get past your own brain. And those that don't figure this out eventually will wash out of trading. If you do figure it out, then you've got some work in front of you. And again, very few people talk about this, and it's kind of disappointing to me, is that everybody focuses on the mechanics. And those that can't seem to get success, obviously, they think that it's, well, I must need one more indicator. I must need one more study. I must need a better charting package. I must need a different strategy. So, hey, good evening, Doug. So this is what I see over and over and over again, but it's really 90 to 95% of your success in the markets is going to be based on you and your ability to control this monkey up here. So that's why I talk about this stuff all the time. And yeah, probably should have done this topic before, and I could probably also get deeper into this. I mean, this is essentially the thrust of the book that I wrote a couple years back, Hacking the Holy Grail. So if you are new to us today, if you didn't see yesterday's trade school, I would encourage you to go watch it, because I sort of set the ground, kind of the ground rules for why we need to understand this and why we have issues. So it's posted in the Members Home Trade School archive. Members Home. And if you scroll down just a little bit, I think it's option number 3 under classes and webinars. So I'm going to do a really quick summarization here for part 1. We have two brains, the subconscious and the subconscious, the conscious and subconscious minds. Conscious mind is slow and task-oriented, loses focus. Think about doing your taxes. This is what you need to do a good tax return, is an engaged and focused conscious mind, not the subconscious. It's not going to help you. The subconscious mind is lightning fast. It's very intuitive. It never shuts off, and it captures everything. It's always running, always running. It operates off of a very static set of default instructions that are extremely difficult to modify. So it's kind of isolated. It's kind of like in its own little bubble up inside your brain, and it's tough to get to. It's good at broadcasting out what to do, but it's not very easy to get to that control center to modify your instruction set. So given a conflict between the subconscious and the conscious minds, the subconscious will win every single time. So if you've ever done something, you made a snap decision, that was your subconscious mind making that snap decision. You're sitting there going, okay, should I turn left or should I turn right? Maybe I should consult the map. Consulting the map would be a conscious brain activity. No, I think I'll just wing it here. That's the subconscious mind. The act of willpower to use the conscious mind. Damn it, I'm going to go to the gym every single day. I signed up for that membership and by gosh, I'm going to go. And what happens is the subconscious mind steps in after about a week after you sign up for that gym membership. It's really cold outside. Wouldn't it be easier just to sleep in? And that's what happens. That's the subconscious mind, because that's what it wants to do. It will do whatever it wants to do. It will rule over you. So you can see that there's applications for this just beyond trading. Yes. It runs your whole life. So the concept of risk, now we're going to move over to risk. Risk is universally taught to everyone that I've ever met as a bad thing. And you have to sort of get over that and get past that. Now, maybe we're going to see a change in society going forward, perhaps if we get away from this whole notion that, yep, go to a good high school, go to college, get some good grades, get a job, work for 42 years, get a gold watch and retire, and then we plant you a few years later. I think we're starting to see the end of that type of environment, and people it's becoming the gig economy that's out there. Everybody is becoming solopreneurs. And with that, we're accepting a little bit more risk. So maybe we'll start to see this change going forward. But everybody that's come from a kind of a corporate life has a difficult time just all of a sudden. You've got this sort of warm and comfortable, existence where you trade your time in exchange for money, and risk is sort of taken away. And all of a sudden, we may be changing that. Or if you trade, you're definitely changing that. So it creates an embedded state with a subconscious mind and will create undesirable trading actions that you cannot explain later on. You'll say, why did I do that? It makes no sense. I can't understand why I did that trading action. So the subconscious mind is going into dinosaur mode to save you. Subconscious mind loves you to death, is dedicated towards saving you based on what it thinks are the right things to do to save you. It's trying to prevent you from encountering any kind of pain. All it wants is the very best for you, kind of like your parents, right? Your parents wanted nothing but the best for you and tried to protect you in every way that they could, perhaps even a little bit too much. I'm certain that just about everybody kind of felt like that near the end of childhood, like, trying to break free and tear away and like, come on, let me go out there and experience things. So this means that you're not following your carefully constructed trading plan, which is a conscious brain activity. So if you put yourself together a nice little business plan, and then you put together a nice little trading plan based on a strategy, and you pat yourself on the back, good boy, that's what I'm supposed to do. And then all of a sudden it goes out the window because, well, markets are chaotic, right? Markets are irrational. And all of a sudden, it just doesn't seem to make sense, and you fall back into your same old habits again. That's the difference between the conscious brain, subconscious mind. Subconscious will always win. So what are some of the effects of these two brains on our trading performance? Glad you asked. So, number one, we make trading decisions on the spur of the moment that we cannot explain later. Why do we do that? Well, trades that come from the conscious mind are generally rational trades. So if you actually do set up a trade from the conscious brain according to your trading plan and you actually execute it the way you're supposed to, that's a rational trade. There's logic behind it, and you may actually have a pretty good chance of winning that. Trade decisions that come from the subconscious mind are generally irrational, emotional, and are meant to protect you. Remember, subconscious brain's job is to protect you, seek pleasure, avoid pain, all those kind of things. Think about your eyelids. Your eyelids will blink in the flash of an eye, right? If something comes at you, you will blink, protect your eyes. You don't consciously think about something like that. It is just a natural reaction that comes from the power of that subconscious mind. It's very, very fast. Think about a sneeze. If you go to sneeze, you can't prevent yourself from closing your eyes, right? It's been proven. You can't Keep your eyes open during a sneeze. So these are actions that you cannot control. These are embedded functions. No matter how hard you try, this is the way that you operate. And so this is kind of what you're up against, right? Some of these decisions that you make on the spur of the moment that you can't explain later are because the subconscious mind is so powerful and can be difficult to reprogram. And that's why there's this whole science around reprogramming it. Number 2, we place entries and exits to seek pleasure and avoid pain. Seek pleasure and avoid pain. Oh, that looks like a great entry. You know, this one's going to win. I can't wait to get into this trade. Usually it's the wrong thing. Or to avoid pain. Oh, it's pulling back. I'm giving back all my profits. Oh no, let's get out now. So newer traders will seek entries that feel good, as measured by either a social barometer, like if everybody else is saying, yeah, good job there. Good job. You should get into that trade. Yeah, we back you because we're all in the same trade. So that feels good. That feels good when you're in the same thing as everybody else. I mean, look at the Discord page. If, you know, everybody's into a certain type of coin, everybody's like laughing and yucking it up, right? And having a good time about it. It's that social barometer. Or if you see a consistent long-performing trend. So if you see something that's doing this, if you see a trend that is just, you know, on the run, just like, woo, this is great. And trust me, we will see these again someday, at some point in our lives here, sometime in this century. We will see uptrends yet again, right? So this feels good. This, when you see a trend like this, you're like, oh, that's great, man. That's, you know, can't wait for the next pullback. So that's a feel-good trait. That's a seek pleasure. Can't wait for the pullback because I want to get on too. Now, the avoid pain thing, these are usually exits. Exits are done to avoid potential further pain, as the intuition that you get is that this pullback will probably just get worse, so why not take a smaller hit now instead of a larger one? So this is typically what we run into if you get into that big trend, right? So it's doing this kind of thing, and you get in maybe at some point over here, and then you see it pulling back, and you're like, oh, no, 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 no. So even though it's still in a primary uptrend, you bail on the thing, you punch out, you pull the D-ring, hit the ripcord, and you wave goodbye at it as it runs away from you. I see this happening intraday. I see this happening on daily swings. I see this happening on weekly charts. I mean, it happens on every time frame, right? That's sort of like, oh no, it's coming back. And we'll definitely get into this topic in a couple of weeks when we start to talk about the trend trading. Okay? Or somebody that's trying to avoid pain can also choose to do nothing. It's the old ostrich with its head in the sand, right? Now, I know that they don't do that. So I'm sure there's a scientist out there that understands the behavior of ostriches, but the Fisher-Price analogy that we've heard about is that they bury their heads in the sand to protect themselves. So this is kind of what a lot of us do, is that oh, well, it'll come back. It'll come back. I don't want to exit because I don't want to book a loss. That would just cost me commissions to get back into this thing again. But they're avoiding pain by doing nothing. So this is a stage that a lot of people go through. A lot of people go through this. Yeah, so I didn't know that this was Freudian. Number 3, we eat like a bird and crap like an elephant. Metaphorically. Profits are not run. So we don't run our profits. We chop them off. The minute that we get a profit, we're like, hoo-hoo, that's it. Okay, I'm out. I got a profit. You know, those kind of things. And very common to see that from a newer trader, is that you're celebrating your early profits. So even if it's just a normal pullback that leads to much greater gains later, we chop them off just to book that profit. So we remember that one time, there was that one time and you will catalog this and you will hang on to this to your detriment, right? So you'll see a trend doing something like this, and then it doesn't stop and it just goes like that. And so you remember that one time, and we tend to remember the negative events like this instead of the positive events because it made more of an impression upon you, because the brain is there to keep you happy and to keep you protected, right? So this is irrational because these events have no correlation whatsoever. Just because something happened once in the past, there's absolutely no correlation. Mark Douglas makes a good point of this in his book, is that every moment in the market is unique, and you can't hear that too often, which is odd because a lot of us will practice technical analysis, which is the study of how prior behavior can be extrapolated forward. That's just something that we have to deal with. So we take much larger losses than our plan because the subconscious mind is trying to protect you from pain, which ironically prevents you from exiting at a small, modest loss, and it turns it into a big loss. Again, that is probably one of the biggest issues with retail traders over the years. Number 4, see this all the time, we give up too soon. That's it, I quit. I quit. Or crypto's never going to go up again. I just know it. I'm getting bored. I want to put my money somewhere else. I quit. So we give up too soon. We think that the path should be easy. It should be effortless. It should accommodate our desires. I got news for you there. So think about it. Why do you think that your strategy has an edge? Why do you think that your technical strategy has an edge versus the rest of the market? Because you had an oscillator crossover? Because you had a MACD divergence? Well, because we had a positive MACD divergence, that means that the market will go higher. No, it doesn't mean anything. There's no edge there at all on something like that. Now, maybe sometimes it might, maybe sometimes it won't. So unless you've got that perfect market character to support that actual signal, that's not really edge. What you have to do, edge comes in when you get the herd on the wrong side, right? Because I went over this last week in my session last week. I don't know if it was on Thursday or Friday, but it was like, why does price move? So think about this. You have an uptrend, and what happens? What happens is the bears start to load up. The bears start to load up, and then it starts to actually go down. The price starts to go down, and the bears load up even more. They say, this is it. This is the top. I know it's the top. The moon was in alignment with Mars, and there was this certain type of the solar cycle and everything like that. So I'm going short. And so the shorts load up on this. And then the bulls say, thank you very much for giving us a better entry. And they take off with it. And this causes the shorts to cover. They have to buy back, right? So it's always about trying to get the herd on the wrong side and being on the right side of the tape, because the herd, when they punch out, they're hitting market orders. Get me out right now. That's a market order, and that will push, especially if there's hundreds or thousands of you all punching out at the same time, that will push the price around instead of a limit order. So you got to find a way to be on the other side of the investing herd. This is what contrarian theory is all about. Don't just go along with the rest of the herd just because everybody else is doing the same thing. Rarely does that work. So you have to be part of the smart money. Now, I forget who was asking yesterday. Maybe it was Ty was saying, so do you mean I have to be a master before I can start to make money at this? I would say no. All it takes is some really subtle changes to start to become part of the smarter money. Let's just call it the smarter money. So you're avoiding chasing things. You become part of the smarter money. It's a progression like anything else. It's not just a light switch that all of a sudden you can buy it off the shelf and all of a sudden, hey, I'm smart money. No, it doesn't work that way, right? It's a progression. It's something where you have to sort of slowly work on that. It's like putting on, instead of a suit of armor, you're building a little chainmail, right? So you're adding a link every single day, and eventually over time it builds up and you've got something that'll protect you. So we're looking for the Holy Grail strategy. That's what everybody wants. We want that Holy Grail strategy, which risks no capital. It wins every time. We seek pleasure, we avoid pain, all that stuff. But the problem is that dude does not exist. A couple of losses on a new strategy, so we say, hey, I want to try this. And we try a new strategy or some new technique or some new market or something like that. And if it doesn't immediately pan off, you're off chasing after the next new thing. You're off chasing after the next new thing. You can even see this in the Discord page, right? Even in the Discord room, you got people saying, hey, I've got the next new thing over here. Now, I don't mind doing that. I don't mind if you guys share that stuff around, but I think it's kind of amusing that here's the next new thing. And it's really, there is very few new things, right? There's very few new things that are out there in the world of trading. It's all kind of the same thing, just with a different twist on it. And what your job is to convince your subconscious mind that you've found something that you and you alone have figured out. So I'm kind of jumping ahead here. How can you overcome these seemingly insurmountable obstacles? Well, it's not ramming discipline down your throat. You can't say, you got to be disciplined. Well, you do, but you can't. It's like pushing a piece of string across the table. You can push that piece of string across the table, but it's going to be all bunched up, right? What if you were to instead pull the end of it? All of a sudden it would go in a nice straight line, right? This is what you want to do. You want to pull yourself towards performance and not push it. Oh, cool. You guys are talking books. That's cool. So you can't effectively manage a trade. So when I say you cannot effectively manage a trade, so in other words, not have your subconscious mind step in and say, I'm in charge here, I'm going to override. So if there is too much risk on the trade, you don't have a chance of being objective with it. You don't have any chance whatsoever of having your conscious mind allow you to manage that trade. The subconscious mind will step in and say, there's too much risk here. I can't sleep. I'm nervous. I'm thinking about it. I'm checking my block folio every other second. You will take action. It will create that action to step in and override. So that kicks in the dinosaur brain. It will veto your trade. So the first thing you need to do to help program your subconscious mind is to trade a position size below the heat radar. You know, like back in, well, this even still happens today, is that guys would do a ground attack. They'd approach. I mean, this is what, the Rickenbacker, in 1942 off the carrier Hornet, the B-25s flew below the radar deck for hundreds of miles, skipping right off the waves because they were below the attitude of the horizon, or the radar horizon. So they weren't picked up until the very end. And then they were considered to be Japanese planes by that point. So you have to keep your heat below that attitude, right? So what do we do about the fact that the subconscious mind believes that trading equals risk and risk is bad? Okay, so we still have this main issue, is that your brains collectively out there, if we're ever to do a poll and find a way to tap into that subconscious mind collectively, we'd find that 90% would believe that risk is bad. So these are some old conditioned responses that we have to break, and it's not going to be that simple. You have to earn the right to trade. So I do say this quite often about earning the right. And you'll sort of understand, I think, by the time I get through this. You have to teach your subconscious mind that trading is not a threat. So it's something that you actually enjoy. So it's something that the brain actually gets satisfaction of or finds pleasure. Remember, this is a Tony Robbins thing. The brain is either seeking pleasure or avoiding pain. Seek pleasure, avoid pain. Those are the only reasons why you do anything at all. Seek pleasure, avoid pain. So how on earth do you do this? You have to make that strategy yours. So again, this is something I firmly believe in, is that you cannot buy something off the shelf, plug it in, and just start trading it. Won't work. Your subconscious mind will prevent that from occurring. I don't even believe that you can follow somebody else's trades. You can be sitting down next to them. You cannot even follow somebody else's trade. Well, just tell me when you get in and I'll get in too. It doesn't work, because what you will do, again, you will do, the subconscious mind will step in and do everything possible to mess up that trade because of what we just talked about, right? So it's going to be viewed as a risk because it's somebody else's trade. You have nothing to do with it. So you're hoping that it works out, but not based on any of your effort. Subconscious mind knows when you're mailing it in, doesn't it? It has no filter. It knows when you're cheating. It knows when you have not earned the right to succeed from that. So there's only one way that I know of to do this. And looking in a mirror and saying, I'm a great trader. I'm a great trader. I'm a great trader. That's not going to do it, guys. So whoever tells you to repetition and affirmations, meditate, affirmations, that's not going to do it. It's not going to do it. You've got to internalize the strategy, make it part of you. And this is where I pull out this graphic. You've got to iterate. You've got to practice. You've got to analyze. You've got to adjust. You got to take ownership of this. You can't just bolt on a strategy and expect it to work. It will not. Your subconscious mind will prevent this from working. It knows when you've mailed it in, when you've shortcut the process. You want to take the long cut, not the shortcut. So how did this guy, I don't know what this guy's name is, but he's fairly famous. I'm kidding. What do you think his subconscious mind is saying to him before a big shot? Oh, don't hit it in the water. Don't lift up. Don't look up on this one. He's not saying stuff like that. In fact, he's probably saying very little to himself. Like one swing thought, complete the backswing. Because he's been there thousands of times before. And his subconscious mind is like, hey, you're going to nail this. You're going to nail this. If you guys have not heard of this character, his name is Alex Honnold. And there's actually a movie that's out right now. It's in very limited release. It's not really available everywhere, but it probably will be available on streaming fairly soon. You've got to see this, and you've got to watch this on the biggest screen that you can. You know how it ends because he was the first guy to ever free solo. Free solo means you have no ropes. You're literally walking up the side of the mountain with just your hands and your feet. That's it. And this guy did El Capitan. This is a superhuman feat. How is he able to overcome the fear? His subconscious mind, remember, is either trying to avoid pain or seeking pleasure. It's neither of those up this, 1,000 feet up above the canyon floor there with no way out. There's no way for him to just say, hey, I quit. And he's not wearing a parachute or anything like that. So it's his subconscious mind told him, you have done the work. You earn the right to climb this mountain. So the reality is that we expect immediate results. We'll quit as soon as we try something and take on a couple of losses. We all do this. We try something a couple of times. We don't get immediate feedback, yet we expect to be a master at it, right? If you expect to win your first two trades on anything, you're expecting mastery right off the bat. instead of treating it like a learning process. So imagine Alex or Tiger doing that. Well, I don't like Dad. I don't like this anymore. I keep slicing the ball. I think I'll quit and play basketball. Well, imagine if Tiger gave up. So Tiger's been practicing since he was 2. Alex took 7 years of roped ascent on El Cap before he found the exact path of free solo. So do you think he earned that right to claim free solo on El Cap? You bet he did. So again, guys, if you get a chance, go see it in the theaters. It's out right now. So unfortunately, there is no shortcut. There's no shortcut to achieving this mastery. There are no drugs. There's no tricks to shorten the process. There are some things that will help, though. There are things that will help. Okay, cool. So don't try to be a jack of all trades. So a lot of us think that it's cool to put up 60 monitors in our den and trade, 42 different markets and be involved in all kinds of different chat rooms and everything like that and try to be the hub of all activity. Don't do that. You're going to be a master of none if you do that. So find your one thing. And this is a nod to City Slickers. It's called Curly's Law. So hopefully you guys have heard me discuss this one before. So this means narrowing it down to one strategy, one technique, maybe even one asset to trade. This is what I had to do because I was your classic, hey, I know 32 different strategies and different ways to trade options and stocks and so forth. And I was putting on all kinds of trades and winning some, losing some, ultimately making the broker rich, not myself. And I just got frustrated with it and said, this is nuts what I'm doing here. This is crazy. This is out of control. I'm going to narrow everything down to just one thing. Probably the best thing I ever did. So less is more. Focusing brings about much faster competence and ultimately mastery. You guys will be amazed how quickly, if you focus on one thing and one thing only, you'd be amazed at how fast you can cut out the clutter and make progress. All of a sudden, things become much more clear. So ultimately, I want you to judge your performance not by your monetary gains, but rather by how well you followed your plan. This is Brett Steenbarger 101. This is when we get to be conscious traders. Get away from that subconscious. Become conscious traders. Now, ultimately, true mastery does contain a healthy dose of intuitive analysis. So I guess what I'm saying is ultimately by the time that, you get some altitude, you get up there, you keep getting some more and more altitude as a trader. Ultimately, once you get way up there and get really, really good at your one thing, you're going to find that your subconscious mind will kick in at that point. It will actually become a friend and not a foe. Because remember how quick the subconscious mind is. It's effortless and it will see things, but it has to purge. You've got to purge all those bad habits of following the crowd to begin with. So I've just barely scratched the surface of this topic, and NLP in particular. These are some of the basics as they relate to trading or really anything else in life. Just about everything that I've talked about today is not just trading or anything else that you undertake that has some element of risk involved to it. If you have unexplainable results, I can almost guarantee you why this is happening to you. So if you're not happy with your performance at present, consider following these steps. Number 1, trade smaller, much smaller, so that no one position is above the attitude of your internal heat radar. It's a very simple thing to do, right? It's a very simple thing to do. Trade small, well below 2% if you can help it. Number 2, find one style of trading that gives you the rage to master. Again, Brett Steenbarger 101. What will you commit to? You've got to commit to this. You can't just say, well, this interests me. No, there's a big difference between being mildly interested in something and being in just an absolute rage where you can't stop thinking about it. Number 3, create business and trading plans to create structure and intentional purpose around those trading activities. So create your framework, create the house that you're going to live in. Number 4, create journaling systems that allow you to quickly determine root cause analysis. So I've gone over this before when I talked about Pareto analysis and journaling in prior trade schools. And just about every class I do has got this in there as well too. And this is going to provide guidance for corrective actions. Number 5, work the problems. Don't get emotional with this. Work the problem. Find the root cause. And for some of you, this is going to be tougher than for others. It depends on what kind of a background that you have. If you're able to dice through the information and find out what is at the root of for every trade that you take, there is a root cause for that not working out. There is. For every trade, there is a root cause for that not working out. Don't settle for typical retail investor analysis. Oh, I suck at this. I'm terrible. I'm no good. What do you think you're doing when you're saying words like this? You're, again, reinforcing your subconscious mind and your attitude about that. Number 6, own that strategy. Own it. Give yourself permission to change it. Make it yours. Your subconscious mind must feel that it is yours. Your subconscious mind cannot feel that it's trading Docs or MAV strategy or some other joker that's out there, right? It has to feel like it's yours and come from inside. This is what I call internalizing that strategy. Number 7, you got to love the process. You have to love it. You have to really live for this, right? If it's drudgery, if this is like, okay, Doc, all right, I've taken 10 trades and I've put hundreds of hours of analysis into that. And I spent all weekend and my wife is pissed at me and I still don't know what I'm doing. No, you got the wrong attitude about this. You know, you're looking for reasons not to succeed once again. You've got to be pulled towards it. Pull towards something. Don't push yourself into it. If you can't muster some passion for this, then don't do it. Don't do it. Number 8, become a learning machine. I really did not become a learning machine until I started getting into trading. I realized that just about everything that I was doing in my professional career, with few exceptions, there were some exceptions, there was some fun along the way I did have, but for most of it, it was kind of like, oh, I got to read this trade manual. I got to read this magazine. Oh, this stuff is so boring. You know, you sort of like force yourself into something and you just sort of like bumble along, you know, just well enough to retain employment, right? But once you find what you're meant to do, that's what I hope that you find with this. Then all of a sudden it becomes fun. Then all of a sudden you're hitting Amazon and you're saying, well, I'm going to buy this book and this book and this book. And, you know, I'm going to download this web page and, you know, set up this Evernote folder and do all this other stuff. So let it consume you. Seek outside opinions, rattle some cages, do what you got to do. So it is, I will reiterate here, it is surprising how quickly that progress comes when you apply focus and persistence. When you narrow yourself down to the tip of a spear, it will happen very, very quickly for you because you're not going to be distracted. You're not going to be trying to, you know, keep all those plates and dishes spinning up at once. You can't do that. But you can focus on one thing at a time. That's what we found with the conscious mind, is the conscious mind can only do one thing at a time. And this has to be intentional, purposeful. Focus on one thing at a time. And that is it for part 2 of neuro-linguistic programming. So I will stick around here for a couple minutes for any questions. I do have to run here in a minute. I've got another call set up in 20 minutes that I am not prepared for. So let me know if you guys have anything you want to ask. Okay, so Tig is saying, in focusing on one thing only, you mean to pick any one of the top cryptos and any one time frame? Well, look, there's so many different ways to trade, right? There's intraday trading, there's swing trading, there's buy and hold, there's trend trading. So what I'm suggesting is that you pick a certain style, and right now that style is generally involved around time frames, right? And are you going to use multiple time frame trading, or are you just going to be a single time frame trader? Right? You could do this any way that you want to. What is your approach? How are you going to set up entries? How are you going to set up exits? So there's lots of different ways to approach this, lots of different strategies. Are you going to use futures? Are you going to be a Digitex futures trader, for example? Are you going to be learning how to use BitMEX and use leverage and go long or short intraday? So there's, just wait until everything starts to come along next year. And 2019, I believe, will be the year of the derivative. And then we'll start talking about option strategies, and that will blow your minds. Seriously. So that's only one element of it. And then beyond that, if you want to, I mean, there's only really just a couple of cryptos that you would want to focus on as being a primary instrument. Probably still just Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin, although some others might start to nip at their heels. Okay. Okay, so Anne, for me, having confidence in my ability to do well when I've latched onto a passion, I win more often than lose. Yeah, that's what happens. And then it becomes self-perpetuating, right? When you start to win, then you start to reinforce, and you get into that positive feedback loop where the brain says, no, wait a minute. Now we used to hate risk. And all of a sudden, hey, we're winning trades now that we're taking the same risk in before. And all of a sudden it feels good to win. That's pleasure. I like that. Let's keep doing that. And all of a sudden you break those old connections, and then you start to associate taking risk with pleasure because you're doing it right. And it makes a big, big difference. Let's see. Yeah. So Anna's saying, when I found a passion to go all in, it's fun and frightening. Well, it doesn't need to be frightening. It doesn't need to be frightening. It's frightening because perhaps you're risking too much to begin with. So earn your way up there. You've got to purge yourself of this sense of, like, I'm afraid to act here because I might lose. And if I lose, then I'm going to feel bad about myself, and it's going to set me back. You've got to set up that grading system where you grade yourself based on how well you followed your plan and not what happened to the trade. It's big. It's huge. Well, again, so Ann, you're saying hard to forget losses, but if it's your passion, you keep moving forward, right? Be careful of that, because right now, again, you're still associating losses with pain. And I know that it takes a superhuman effort to get rid of that, but that's ultimately where you want to go. You have to associate your reward system with how well that you traded your system. And if you do get a loss, find out why. Find out why. Why did that happen? Why did that happen? Easy to say, but right. But you know that that's the path that you have to go on, right? You cannot be dragged around with this huge ball and chain, this anchor of like, well, I hope I don't lose. I hope I don't lose. Because the minute that you say that, that's your subconscious mind saying, I have not moved on. I still am the same person that I was when I was 2 years old and afraid of loss. Right? You've got to get past that point, as everybody does, right? That is our challenge here. That is our challenge to mastery. Okay, so guys, I've got to run here. I've got to prepare for my next one. So if there's anything else that you guys have, you guys know how to get a hold of me. So reach out. This is a huge topic. This is enormous. This is one of my passions because I've seen what a difference it's made in my own life. Not only just from a trading perspective, but also just everything else, is that everything is based on your attitude and your mindset. Everything. I can't emphasize that enough. So if you have the right attitude, the right mindset for things, and I could tell you stories about this stuff, but I don't have time right now. but it just opens the door to everything else. All right, guys, you have a great weekend, and I will see you back here on Monday in one form or another. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
There goes a sight from my soul.